What's going on, everybody? Welcome into a special live streaming edition of BetSided Best Bets. I'm Ben. With me is Ian McMillan, Peter Dewey, Reed Wallach, and Donovan Smoot. Normally, if you're with us usually around this time or so on Tuesdays, we go through our favorite early leans or best bets ahead of the week. All throughout the college football season in the NFL, that's how we would roll. And then, of course, once the playoffs picked up, we started to narrow the focus a little bit. But today is a little bit different. If you joined us last week, we went over our early leans for the Super Bowl. This week, live with all of you, we're going to go over our favorite prop bets. So it might start off a little bit around the horn. It might turn into an open dialogue with you guys. If you have any questions to send us here on the live stream, whether you're watching us live at BetSided on Twitter or right here on YouTube, we'll go ahead and take some of your questions. I see Beers and Bow Ties is already joining in on the action. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick things off. Ian, I kick things off to you as we normally start off the show. Give me a prop. Let's get a winner. Let's start the train moving forward here. What do you like?
Yeah, nobody likes to bet an under on a player prop, especially when it comes to the Super Bowl. It's not exactly a fun bet to cheer for, but I'm on an under that I think is, it is my favorite prop bet of the game. I've mentioned this a few times over the past week or so. It's going to be Joe Mixon under 63.5 rushing yards in this game. I'm not overthinking it. It's pretty simple. Rams have one of the best run defenses in the NFL, fourth in opponent yards per carry, allowing only an average of 3.9. The most that anyone has gained on the ground against the Rams so far in these playoffs is Leonard Fournette, who gained 51 against them in the divisional round. That's still 12, 13 yards below what Joe Mixon's set total is. And I think the Bengals' offensive game plan is going to favor this prop bet as well, because if you've actually looked at what they've done throughout the playoffs, they tried to attack teams' weaknesses. When they took on the Titans in the divisional round, the Titans have one of the best run defenses as well. They were vulnerable in the secondary, and the Bengals only ran the ball 14 times, whereas last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago in the conference championship, the Chiefs had one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, and the Bengals tried to attack that. Joe Mixon had 21 carries. So in this game, I don't think they're going to try to run right at the Rams' strength, which is the run defense. I think they're going to throw the ball, rely on Joe Burrow. So I'll take the under 63.5 for Joe Mixon rushing yards on the Super Bowl, at the Super Bowl.
Okay, so quick follow-up on Mixon. And by the way, the rest of the crew, if you guys want to weigh in, if there's anything that's tempting you here, please go ahead and do so. But the thing about Mixon, I think it kind of goes in line with how you're viewing this game, right? Because you're right at the beginning of the week. I think the moment that the lines dropped over at WinBet, you were telling us that this is the easiest Super Bowl bet that you've made in recent time, Rams -4. With that being said,
Correct.
Doesn't that kind of play right into the narrative that if the Bengals are going to struggle to move the ball, you go away from the run game with Joe Mixon? How do you feel about maybe, say, his receiving yards prop, which is currently listed at WinBet over at 25.5, with the over at -105 compared to the under at -125? Does that play a role in the decision-making for you as well?
Yeah, it certainly could. By the way, just as, of course, my cat doesn't like it when I'm recording video, so she was scratching at my door there. I had to let her out. Shout out Daisy. No, I mean, running back receiving props are something I never bet, because it's kind of hard to play in that, because I feel like a lot of the time that running backs catch the ball, it's not like they're the first option on a pass play. It's usually, third or fourth, the check down option. So then you're trying to guess how many times is a quarterback going to check the ball down to the running backs, which is kind of a hard thing to predict. Of course, there are some design plays where the running backs are supposed to catch a ball out of the backfield like a screen or something, but a little bit tougher to predict. But as far as the game flow, I would think if the Rams get up by a lot, which I think they will, then yeah, Joe Mixon's probably going to get the ball in his hands through the passing game more than the running game. So yeah, maybe look at one of those receiving props.
All right, works for me. Rams currently 4-point favorites over at WinBet. Odds for them at -112, so just a tiny bit of extra juice in that direction. Bengals are coming in at -108, +4 on the spread. Money line, if you like the Bengals, which I know our Peter Dewey does. We'll get to him coming up in just a little bit. They're at +165. You got to do 2-1 odds or 1-2 odds on the Rams if you're looking on the money line. Total just been sitting and waiting at 48.5. in this game as well. All right, let's go to another guy that's back in the Rams in this game. That is one Donovan Smoot. Give me a prop bet for the Super Bowl that you're already invested in.
Look, I'm going with my guy. Odell Beckham Jr. is one of my favorite players of all time, and I'm going with his reception prop over 5 receptions, odds of -120. Odell's cleared this line in the last 2 games, and he's gotten better and better. This entire playoff run, he's gotten more targets, more catches each and every week. He's coming off his best game as a Ram, had over 100 yards receiving. And so with the Rams, I think we all know what they're going to do. Cooper Kupp is going to get the ball. He's going to take the ball deep. I really think that that's going to allow for a lot of passes for Odell, short, underneath. When Cooper Kupp is going deep, trying to take the top off the defense, Odell's going to be right there, and he's going to be the safety blanket for Matthew Stafford. This is a Bengals team that we saw against the Chiefs. Listen, we praised them for the comeback. They were down 21-3. They are vulnerable. They can be got. I think that the Rams' offense is powerful enough to put them in that situation. I think this entire Rams team has a lot of people, especially from the 2018 season. They have a lot of players that are waiting for this moment, waiting to come in and get their ring, and especially for Odell, who's had such a turmoil filled season, with everything that was happening in Cleveland. This is his time, and especially to come in and be the second receiver. I think 5 receptions is very, very generous, and so I think he's going to have a big game.
He's coming off a 9 reception game too for 112 yards. Cup coming off an 11 reception game too. Reed, I think you wanted to weigh in on this one. Did I catch that correctly? Was there anything that you want to dive in on?
He's gonna try to talk.
No, I like the Odell prop. That's fine. I'm curious why you went receptions over yards though for Odell. You're thinking just heavy targets, maybe not an explosive play, because that fourth quarter he had 2 or 3 big catches down the stretch, big plays too. That one on the sideline where he got rocked, and I believe he had another one over 20 yards. You're thinking receptions though over yards?
Yeah, I think the yardage, and even though that the yards have gone up each and every game, if you look at his entire stint with the Rams, the yards have been something that's been a little bit inconsistent. And I'm with Ian on the fact that I think that the Rams are going to win this game, and they're going to win it pretty easily. So I think that later in the game, they're not going to be looking to push the ball down the field. They're not going to have to force the ball down the field to Odell and Kupp. And so most of his work is probably going to be done in the first half, and so I'm not too sure. His receiving line is at like 64. I can see him, kind of around there, but I really think like I can see a 7-catch game for like 55 yards.
Yeah,
and just
that number's up though.
Yeah, and so
the rest of the postseason.
But I really think that Odell's going to be really productive, be a chain mover in this game, and that's kind of going to be his role.
I would like to say on public record, that I was wrong about OBJ. Donovan, when he was with the Browns,
this is a big win.
Asking to be traded. I publicly was saying that I just don't think OBJ is a good receiver. I thought he was blaming Baker Mayfield for his own faults, and then he went to the Rams and he's looked fantastic. So I'm a man of honor. I'm a man of my word. Hand up. I was wrong about OBJ. He's looked great with the Rams. I'd like to apologize to Donovan for my take.
Odell Hive appreciates that. We love that.
I think the last time I've seen Donovan smile that big was when the Silk Sonic album came out.
Listen, if you guys aren't listening to the Silk Sonic album, or if you're not watching Odell Beckham play football, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
Why not do both? Why not do both? You can turn down the sound, turn down the NBC sound, put on the album, and go.
Just do it. The 2-minute video that Odell's dad put of Baker messing up his son's career. Watch that and have the Silk Sonic album on in the background.
And then you get an awesome halftime show on top of that as well. That's perfect music. Peter, let me go to you, Mr. Cincinnati Bengal. Not exactly public Pete, I think at this point, although we really haven't given the public a whole big option to jump on board with the Bengals train. But you have to imagine that they will, considering that Burrow has continued to cover as an underdog. So maybe not public Pete just yet, but I think the train is slowly starting to leave the station. But first of all, but before you dive into your prop bet, why are you still all on with the Bengals at plus 165?
Yeah, I talked about this a little bit on Bed and Breakfast yesterday. I think the Bengals their defense is being extremely underrated in this game. I think they played very well defensively and done a really good job adjusting in a lot of games this season, but specifically late in these last 2 games. So in the Titans game and in the Chiefs game, they did a really good job adjusting. They kind of shut down Derrick Henry, and then the other side, they were able to shut down Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes in the second half of the AFC Championship game. So my thing for the Bengals in this game, and the reason why I took them the second on the money line, like you can go down the narrative street for Joe Burrow, obviously, and this team, but I think the bigger thing is the Rams. Like on paper, you go, oh, the Rams have the better team, they're the better team. The Bengals have the better quarterback, and how many times have we seen the better quarterback is really the difference at the end of the day in the Super Bowl? And I know Ian hates this, but the Bengals do have the better quarterback. I'm sorry, Matt Stafford turns the ball over too much for me. The Rams have lost games this season strictly because Matt Stafford has turned the ball over too much. I could see it happening again against a strong defense in the Super Bowl. So that's why I'm on the Bengals. But speaking of my prop, I'm actually looking at Matt Stafford, and I'm taking what Reed calls the backbone of the American economy, over on a quarterback rushing prop. Stafford set at 4.5 yards in this game, and like Matt Stafford is not known for his legs, but this is pretty crazy. I wrote this up on BetSided yesterday. So in the regular season, Matt Stafford had 32 registered carries between carries and kneel downs. In 3 playoff games, he has 15. So we talk about how quarterbacks try to avoid making mistakes, which Matt Stafford has done. They're more likely to tuck and run the ball. Matt Stafford has cleared this in all 3 playoff games so far. And the big reason why is he's trying to avoid making that big mistake. Almost made it in the 49ers game, might make it in the Super Bowl, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here to get over these 4.5 yards. On top of that, in the Bengals 3 playoff games, they have allowed plenty of rushing yards. Patrick Mahomes, 3 carries, 19 yards. Ryan Tannehill, 3 carries, 12 yards. Derek Carr, 1 carry, 20 yards. Bengals in the regular season allowed 3.2 carries per game to opposing quarterbacks for an average of 14.8 yards per game. I think Stafford can get over 4.5. It's a really, really low number, which makes me like it. I like Joe Burrows as well, Ben. I know you're going to talk about that. So, but yeah, give me Stafford over 4.5 rushing yards.
Great prop. Just great analysis, just all around. Really, just well done. The information there, just fantastic. Like, why invest in the market? Why invest in Bitcoin? You could just take quarterback rushing props in the NFL playoffs. You could just take them. No, I totally like it. And again, Stafford knows that interception's coming, and he's going to try and limit it, especially if the Bengals go with that 3-man front that they did against the Chiefs in the second half. Going to be a lot of the middle of the field open. I could see Stafford tucking and running it for several yards. Obviously, wary of the kneel downs at the end of games because you're tacking off 1-2 yards. But yeah, and don't sleep on, I don't know the number, Ben, I don't know if you have it in front of you, but Stafford, anytime touchdown, anything big, if he gets down to the 1, he sneaks. He is one of those guys who keeps it and pushes it in. So I don't hate a Stafford anytime touchdown prop. I don't have the number in front of me, but Peter kind of inspired me to maybe look into it.
I'm glad you brought up the kneel downs, Reed, because that's what I would be wary of. Because again,
yeah,
I'm obviously on the Rams, but that's probably going to kill you, Peter. Is whenever Stafford takes the knee to end the Super Bowl, he's probably going to kill you right there. And so that's the one thing on either on the very, very small rushing quarterback props, especially if they're on the team that I expect to win. I gotta stay away from it because I think those kneel downs are just going to kill you.
That happened with Mahomes 2 years ago, didn't it? Or did you guys bring that up?
It did.
He ran all the way backwards. He ran backwards like 10 yards, 50. Like he was way clear of it and like completely lost like 18 yards on the last drive to kill it. So
it's one of the worst beats for prop bets in Super Bowl history.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, you have to like 4.5 in reality is closer to like 8.5, 9, because like to give yourself the cushion of the kneel down. So it's something that you need to factor in when you're betting these, but I still like it.
Well, Peter doesn't think they're going to be kneeling down.
Counterpoint, exactly. They're not going to win at the end of the game. So there's no kneel downs if they're not going to win. That's the way I'm looking at it.
That's fair.
I go ahead.
Go ahead, Ian.
I can't. I was going to bite my tongue and not say anything, but like, I'm going to accept you saying Joe Burrow is the better quarterback, but it's like even if you say he's the better quarterback, it's like here and here. Like, which of the 2 quarterbacks was considered an MVP for a good portion of the season? Matt Stafford. Joe Burrow's name never got brought up as in the MVP conversation all season. So, like, for you to just clearly say who has the better quarterback, the Bengals are going to win. I mean, that's debatable.
That's fair.
That's fair right now, and everyone loves him because he's cool. I love him too, but like, it's like
they got fooled. They got fooled. He put on a cool coat, and he put on a cool coat and had some glasses. Like it had some colored sunglasses, and everybody fell in love with him. And that's the same reason why. And I'm letting you know right now, when they lose, keep that same energy. Keep that same energy. Because he's going to be really stupid. He's going to look really stupid wearing pink sunglasses after a loss. And I bet you he won't even wear them. He won't even wear the sunglasses if they lose.
See,
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't put my I just can't put my faith in Matt Stafford. Like, have we not watched Matt Stafford his entire career? The thing is coming into this year, I'm a Matt Stafford believer in terms of when people are saying, oh, the Goff Stafford comparison, like Stafford's way better than Jared Goff, but like Joe Burrow in 2 years, you're
Aaron Donald is going to eat him alive.
Oh.
It's simple and plain. Aaron Donald is going to eat him alive, and he's going to win the game.
Oh.
I have to weigh in on a second because I have to call out my guy Donovan here, because if we're really being honest here, if we're going to give Joe Burrow the shade for the pink sunglasses, okay, year 2, outstanding year, coming back from a brutal ACL, MCL, and PCL injury, takes his team to the Super Bowl. Okay, I was on Stacking the Box earlier with Mark Harmon and Matt Verderam, and you guys had heard me talk about how this game reminds me of last year's Super Bowl, right? Where the Chiefs just could not do anything to stop the Buccaneers' front four from pressuring and generating pressure. I'm going to play a string that's actually near and dear to Peter's heart. The more I think about this, the more that I think this game could be reminiscent of Super Bowl 50, when the Denver Broncos and that outstanding pass rush came in and dominated Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. Now, I know that Cam is Donovan's guy, okay? Mm-hmm. If we're going to call out somebody for wearing ridiculous clothing, like, can we not get in the same argument here? Like,
Cam Newton under the bus.
Time out, Ben. That's what we're not going to do. That's what we're not going to do. Because two things happen. One, I have never called out Cam for wearing anything crazy, and I'm not calling out Joe for wearing what he wore. My thing is the people who saw what he was wearing and said, "Oh, he's a good quarterback because he dresses cool."
He's a good quarterback because he threw for 400 yards on the Chiefs two times. The dude's good. He's good at football.
He came. Listen,
that's an important distinction. You'd agree. That's an important distinction.
I like the outfits. I like his swagger. He's a cool dude. But don't pick him because he's wearing the cool clothes, right? That shouldn't be the reason why you side with it. And that's what I think a lot of people are doing.
I just felt like you tossed it up.
I like Joe Shiesty. He's cool.
Yeah,
he's
Ben,
cool.
you bring up a good point with
not this month.
You brought up 2 good points actually for me. One, we talk about last year's Super Bowl and how Patrick Mahomes was running for his life, which he 100% was. We also watched Patrick Mahomes run for his life against the Bengals because Patrick Mahomes tries to make the hero play all the time. And I don't think Joe Burrow does this. I know Reed has talked about this too. Like, Joe Burrow is very good at making quick decisions, getting the ball out of his hands. Like, he is not trying to win the game by himself. And Patrick Mahomes is great, but he sometimes to a fault thinks he can get himself out of every single scenario. I think Joe Burrow, like, knowing to limit himself, he can stop himself from going crazy and trying to make a crazy play. He hasn't done it the entire playoffs. That's why he hasn't really turned the ball over. He threw that one pick against the Chiefs. But that is where I think there's a slight difference between that game last year and this one. And also on the Super Bowl 50 point, look, I'm betting on the Bengals. I want the Bengals to win. But if Von Miller wins another Super Bowl, maybe another Super Bowl MVP, I'm fine with it. I don't care.
Yeah, no, Peter made great points about Burrow's decision-making. I have a bunch of deep dive previews. I'll shamelessly plug myself for the site. Go check out BetSided. I'm going to have a bunch of previews.
Oh, we do.
Shamelessly plug on my own team stream. But no, I have a bunch of previews coming out on how each unit is going to attack and scheme to beat one another. And my real handicap here is Burrow's going to have to throw the ball. I don't see, this goes with Ian's prop, I don't see Joe Mixon being a big factor in the running game. Rams are top 5 against the rush. I think the way to beat this Rams defense, because they're not going to blitz, they're going to drop the linebackers back in coverage and win with their 4-man front, they're going to have to throw. And I'm talking quick throws because Burrow's not going to have time. Who's his favorite underneath route? Tyler Boyd. That's why my prop is Tyler Boyd over 4 receptions, even money. I see juice 3.5s everywhere. I like 4. I think Boyd's going to be kind of the guy I key in on for the Bengals passing game. Burrow against zone, which is the Rams' primary defense, up 7% completion percentage. I think that the game plan is going to be get the ball out of Burrow's hands quickly, find Boyd, find Higgins, find Chase, let them make plays in space. So Boyd, I like his over receptions, receiving yards. I think he's going to break a big play. And again, this all goes with this Burrow kind of getting it out and throwing it quickly. So I see a high volume. Rams are top 10 against explosive pass. So I think a lot of underneath routes. So yeah, Tyler Boyd's kind of my favorite pass catcher for the Super Bowl.
So I like the play on Boyd as well. My concern is, why hasn't he been more involved over the course of the postseason? Is it just because they haven't had anybody like Jalen Ramsey to shadow somebody like Chase or Higgins and kind of just neutralize them, take them out of the game completely? Like, why is this the week for Boyd that all of a sudden he gets much more involved in the passing game?
I just think it's schematic. The Rams, they don't blitz at a high rate outside the top 10 in that. Again, they play a lot of zone, which opens up the middle of the field underneath. So again, Boyd has an incredibly high percentage of catches. He's kind of their favorite guy against zone defenses per Pro Football Focus. So I just think Boyd's going to, again, Chase is going to be taken out of the game, if I had to guess, by Ramsey, or if not, it's going to be Higgins. So that opens up Boyd. That opens up the middle of the field where I think Boyd is going to thrive, and that's where most of his routes are ran. So again, quick decisions. And also, if the Bengals are going to be behind, like many of us on this stream seem to think, that's more throws. That's more completion attempts. And we saw the Niners do it against the Rams. They looked to make quick throws to get it out because the run game was getting stymied. So why not a few to Boyd underneath, rack that up. So I like yards, but receptions at even money to me is the smarter play, in my opinion.
I like that a lot, Reed. And I think too, like, questions around CJ Uzomah. I know he said he's not missing the game, but I mean, the dude sprained his MCL 2 weeks ago. Like, how effective is he really going to be underneath? Does Tyler Boyd take more of those targets? And you bring up a good point with Chase. Like, Chase had a really good game against the Raiders, had a really good game against the Titans. They were able to get him the ball because neither of those teams really has a number one, like, lockdown corner. If Jalen Ramsey ends up actually following him, like he said yesterday, around the field, like, I can't imagine they're willing to just say, let's just throw it up to Jamar Chase like they've done all year. Like, there's going to be a calculated risk that they'll take it probably once or twice in the game, but that's not going to be like, we can do this whenever. I think it's a T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd kind of game where that's just how they're going to have to win it and hope that maybe Jamar breaks a big play at some point. Okay,
so that leads me into a question for you guys, because the number on Chase over at WinBet right now is 5.5 on total receptions, heavily juiced on the over. It's minus 135. So you'd have to, if you were trying to win $100, you'd have to lay 135 for that one. Under 5.5 is at plus 105. Then if it comes to reception yards for Jamar Chase, he leads the way on the Bengals at 80.5. It's minus 15 on both sides. After that, Higgins is 69.5. Tyler Boyd is at 40.5. Are we looking to steer clear of Chase receptions, yards, especially if we're all convinced that that's going to be the dude that Ramsey is on throughout the entirety of the game? Or do we look at somebody like Chase and say, man, this guy is an absolute beast anyway? Even with Ramsey, he's been beaten before. The last thing you want is to be on the wrong side when he breaks a big play, which he's been doing all year long. So I'll throw this one to anybody who wants it. Are you more likely to go on an under for Jamar Chase, knowing that it's a very difficult matchup, or is this just a stay away for you guys?
Donovan, you're on mute. But I'll go. No, I actually kind of like Jamar Chase under receiving yards, to be honest with you. It's just a big number. And, I'll let Donovan take it. But I just think that, to me, it's a big number. And if Ramsey's going to bracket him, it's just he's not Cooper Kupp in terms of just the target shares and how involved he's going to be. So, again, that's why I pivoted to Boyd. I haven't come in on a Chase under, but to me, it's under a pass. It's just such a big number. And I think this game is going to be a little bit tighter than, your shootout type games, which, again, the total is low. So I like Boyd. I like these underneath routes. I don't see a lot of chunk plays coming.
Don, we got your back?
Yeah. Am I good?
You're good?
Yeah, you're
all right, cool. My AirPods died. I thought my laptop switched over. But yeah, no, I would still take the over on Chase, even at 80. He's too explosive. He's gonna make one play and make one person miss, and he's gonna break 30, 35 yards down the field and get a huge chunk play. So I would take the over, and I wouldn't be that scared about it. I would rather stay on the receiving yards rather than the receptions, just because the juice is really high on the receptions. But I still think Chase is gonna have a really good day.
Staying with that on the talking about the receptions, I might be inclined to take the under on the receptions. Just like maybe he breaks the big play and he doesn't make as many catches. Like there's value there if you really think he's not going to have a big game. Like 5.5, Ben?
5.5,
yeah. So like he could still make 5 catches. Like it's not like he's not like what Reed said. He's not like a target hog. Like they don't throw the ball to him 15 times a game. So I could see him breaking a big play where I would probably stay away on the receiving yards number, just because, like Donovan said, he could catch a 70-yard pass and then you're dead right there, basically. But I could see the under on if Ramsey shadows him, the under on receptions. I definitely would like that.
So I'm looking over
MVP Tyler Boyd.
I mean, that completely just destroys our argument if we're going to go ahead and counter there. But to Peter's point, for Jamar Chase, I'm going through it now. I'm counting 13 times over 21 games where he's had under 5 receptions or 5 receptions.
That's a big prop to hit.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. If you get a prop, considering where they're normally juiced at like minus 115 or so, and then especially if sharps get a hold of it and really boost that number up, or they even have to change it, I'm kind of with you there. I think I'm starting to lean, and it can still be a small bet because you're getting plus odds on it. Exactly. But I mean, if Chase goes for 5 and 82, which is certainly in play, your under on receptions is going to hit, and you're getting that at plus 105 odds. So I think that might be a bit of a sneaky prop. That might be a prop.
I like it a lot.
Contrarian under.
A little bit, yeah. Big fan of the contrarian unders, except that they lead right into my overplay. But it is still early in the week, so I think it constitutes. Before I get to my play, though, I do want to mention to everybody that's listening that we're going to be back on Thursday. Same time, right here, 4 p.m. Eastern. The 5 of us are going to be drafting our favorite plays and props ahead of Super Bowl 56. So you're going to want to be there for that. It's going to be competitive. The stakes have never been higher. The trash talk is going to start to come out. If you heard a little bit of it over the course of today, Thursday, it will be on another level. So make sure you guys join us for that. Draft positioning, very, very critical as to who gets some of these ideal props. And we'll add it all up, and there will absolutely be bragging rights and some things to have to pay off towards the end. But something that you're going to keep on your radar heading into Thursday. All right, so I'll go ahead and close things off. If you heard me on Bet and Breakfast on Monday with Reed and Peter, I mentioned this as well, but it's too good of a number. You can't pass this up right now. It's 11.5 rushing yards for Joe Burrow in this game. Odds aren't great. It's minus 125 over at WinBet. But
backbone of the economy, Ben. Come on, it doesn't matter.
If there's anything that I've been told,
printing press.
Listen, I am here to make sure that we as Americans stay strong in our economy. So if I can contribute in whatever way I can, I feel it's my patriotic duty to go ahead and lay the 125 juice on this one. Burrow has found something in his ability to run. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek because if you remember going back to the LSU championship game, he was the only quarterback not named Vince Young to throw for 250 yards, run for 50 yards, and run for a touchdown. And that was in the first half of that game. So he has the wheels in his toolbox. He just hadn't done it throughout the early portion of the season because he didn't trust his recovery. That was a big talking point entering the season. But he had mentioned to Zach Taylor in that game against Kansas City, hey, they are giving me this open lane in the middle. And not only did Burrow take advantage of some actual designed runs, but he took off and run when he felt the pressure. His timing was impeccable. He extended plays. He realized the value of him being able to run. And because I have the Rams winning this game and Burrow likely running for his life, he's going to have to take off anyway. I don't need to worry about the kneel down from Joe Burrow in this game. I can help the economy and also make sure that I'm on the right side of the action as well. So I do like Joe Burrow going in at over 11.5. So let's quickly go around the horn one final time. Let's name our bets for anybody that's just joining in. We'll go Ian, Donovan, Peter, Reed, myself. final best prop bets. Ian, go ahead.
Mine was Joe Mixon under 63.5 yards, but I'm taking this opportunity. I have not been saying anything the past 10 minutes. You guys have been talking about Jamar Chase and receivers. I'm not letting this Joe Burrow versus Matt Stafford thing go, Peter. You want to talk about, I can't trust Matt Stafford. Look at all the interceptions he's thrown. Yeah, he threw 17 interceptions this year. You know how many Joe Burrow threw? 14. 3 fewer. And now you're acting like he's never thrown a pick in his life, and Matt Stafford's thrown 50 in the past 10 games. Get out of here. Rams by a million. That's my final thought.
I love that. I'm going with Odell over 5 receptions. Juice was at 120, I think, on mine. Yeah. So we're rocking with Odell.
Going Matt Stafford over 4.5 rushing yards, minus 115. It's never going to have to kneel down in this game because they're not going to win. So go Bengals.
Yeah, I'm going with Tyler Boyd over 4 receptions, even money.
And then, of course, Joe Burrow over 11.5 rushing yards at minus 125. Appreciate everybody checking us out. Also, a shout out to Beers and Bowties who weighed in saying, great show as always. I expect a great game, but can we give a huge thank you for this 90s halftime show? Yes, unequivocally we can. You guys aren't parents yet. I am, but I'm trying to remember who sent out the tweet. Basically said because this is music of my childhood. And he said new parents with kids that are actually paying attention to the Super Bowl are going to witness a whole other side of their parents during this halftime show. And they are 100% correct. So cannot wait for it. It's going to be an absolutely great game. Hopefully it's fairly competitive, but the Rams still win by 4. So for Ian, Peter, Donovan, and Reed, I am Ben. Check out all the great work happening with our crew over at BetSided. Check it out, fansided.com/BetSided. And of course, more videos right here on our YouTube channel as well. We'll be back with our prop draft on Thursday. Make sure you guys are back with us for that. Until then, talk to you soon. May all of your bets hit.